In the beginning, films were silent and had very simple plots. Soon, movies began to expand. Sound and color became popular. Special effects were also used from the beginning and grew over the years. There's no question about it. Film has been changing and will continue to change. The question is it changing for the better or worse?
A little bit of both.
I would say that the films that I like to watch are a mix of old movies and modern movies.
Maybe both, but maybe I watch more older movies.
It's kind of a mix. It depends upon, what it is that I'm watching.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
To compare and contrast older movies with newer movies, I think there's a lot of new technology that is enhancing and changing the way that we make and view movies.
It's like the older films, a lot of them had a message. Even if it was just like a nonchalant, have fun message or a message about, changing the world, whatever. And then you have the new films who have the same message but had to appease like a new crowd.
One thing that seems to be true of older movies is that they have less going on a lot of times, but then maybe because of that, they do more in some situations than others. So they focus less on having a lot happen in the movie.
Obviously, the special effects are in, much greater detail, and it's phenomenal what they do.
3D, visual effects, digital color correction are all new additions to the cinematic creation process.
Obviously the computer-generated stuff. If you look at, maybe some of the superhero type of movies, the effects that are related to them.
I think the most important part of a movie is the story. Regardless if it's an old movie or a new movie, if you don't have a good story, you don't have a movie.
And for me, I think, a strong plot is sort of probably the most important.
I think it should all, work together as one. You should have a good storyline, a good plot, something that's really going to make you, think and it's going to, attract you to the movie.
I think that the use of CGI it's kind of a mixed bag. There are certain filmmakers that use it responsibly and use it to accent their story, and others that kind of use it gratuitously.
Some, directors seem to focus a lot more on, the special effects as opposed to the plot or the storyline.
There is certain things that, we're limited to, and CGI, in some ways, especially when it comes to like, superhero movies or really action-packed movies, they make things come alive.
I don't know. I think it depends on the movies. I think that there are lots of good films made, even those that have CGI in them, that really try to focus on the story in interesting ways.
I just saw the Man of Steel, the new Superman movie, and that, the story is so thin, but the effects are incredible.
But I think in other terms, with films like, Catch Me If You Can or Forrest Gump, where it's being used almost seamlessly to transport you into a different world or a different time.
CGI, it's just like I can do whatever I want. It's like a superpower, sort of.
Let's take, for instance, Forrest Gump. As I mentioned before, I thought did a magnificent job of using visual effects to transport us into the past, into the 60s, into the Vietnam War, all of the different places that Forrest went.
Like if you think of like Life Aquatic, it's a Wes Anderson movie, it uses CGI, but it does it in a way that I don't think at all sort of detracts from the story that he was trying to tell.
A film that I worked on called Master and Commander: Far Side of the World, which was shot primarily in a tank of water sitting on the beach in Mexico. And when you watch the film, it all takes place at sea, and you're transported into the middle of storms, into the middle of the doldrums, to the Galapagos. And that was a magnificent use of, computer manipulated imagery. For instance, Moonrise Kingdom, which came out last year, I thought was a brilliant story. It was fun, I enjoyed it. Very little, if any, visual effects work went into it. I saw a film called The Master, which is by a director called P.T. Anderson, and I don't know that there was a single visual effects shot in it. It was all about character actors, doing method acting, becoming these people, and that type of art where you're really relying on actors' performances, and directors getting great performances out of actors. That's, for me, that's the best kind of filmmaking you can get. It's hard to say why they remake films. It could be for multiple reasons. Lack of new creative ideas for big budget films. Studios going with things that they know have worked in the past and are going to work again to make them money.
I work in theater, and so we're always restaging old plays and old stories. I think that what makes a lot of things classic in theater is the number of times people produce it over and over in different ways.
I think that certain remakes are magnificent. What Christopher Nolan has done with the Batman series is fantastic. What he did is he took it and made it kind of an original approach to this character. And I think as long as we're telling the story in a new way and giving it a little bit of new life. For instance, Star Trek is kind of going over the same series, but we're starting a little bit earlier in time. The recent one is very similar to Wrath of Khan. It's almost the same movie, but done with a little bit more, little twists, a little bit more modern effects. The scene where they crash into San Francisco, visual effects wise, it's very hard for me to see a visual effects sequence and go, wow, because it's what I do all day for a living. But that one, I was sitting in the theater like this. So, sometimes I think remakes, give me something good.
I'd say they're getting better on the whole. I'm optimistic.
Worse for me.
Worse.
I think films have been getting better, actually.
I think they can't come up with anything original. They keep remakes. They have all these remakes right now, and they need something more original, in my opinion.
I think business is getting into all movies now and making it harder to do different films.
There's more people that have access to telling stories and to putting films into the world than ever before.
I think every day we have more to work with. We have more history to build off of.
So, are films getting better or worse? It's really up to you to decide. But as filmmaking becomes more accessible to people and as technology gets more advanced, the only way to answer this question is to sit back and welcome whatever the future of film brings.
We don't only have film cameras. We can now go out and start shooting and trying things out, with our phone if we wanted to. And so I think that, with more opportunity and more latitude for creative expression, that films are getting better. Not all of them, but the ones that are good are getting better.